Chapter 61. The world seemed to freeze. Lyra had her rifle trained on Dorian in a heartbeat, her finger on the trigger. Kaelen stood his ground, his mind racing. This man, the smith, could see past his veil shroud. He could perceive the paradox core itself. Who are you? Kaelen's voice was flat, devoid of the shock he felt. His risen were a thought away from materializing. Dorian sighed, as if dealing with a tiresome child. He pointed a stubby finger at Lyra. You, with the overly dramatic firearm. The round in your chamber is a standard armor-piercing variant, Model 7C. It would ricochet off the kinetic barrier I have running about 2 inches from my skin and probably take your head off. So, let's all just relax. He turned back to his workbench, picking up the device he was working on, a complex lattice of silver wire and dark crystal. As for who I am, I told you. I'm the smith. I fix things the system can't. Or won't. He glanced back at Kaelen. And you, boy, are in desperate need of a tune-up. Silas's voice crackled in their earpieces. Lyra, stand down. Kaelen, get a read on him. Jax, any other contacts? Negative, Captain. Jax's voice came back. The place is clean. Spookily clean. Your friends are thorough, I'll give them that, Dorian said, not looking up. He'd clearly heard the transmission. You can tell the big one on the roof to stop trying to get a laser designator on me. It's rude, and it won't work. Kaelen took a cautious step forward. The Veil Singer sent you. The singer? Dorian chuckled, a sound like grinding stones. No. Those sentimentalists are too busy mourning the past to plan for the future. I heard the song of a new core igniting. A Warden's Core. It's a very specific frequency. Like a lighthouse in the psychic static. Took me a while to triangulate. What with you cloaking yourself and all. Clever trick, that. Inefficient, but clever. He finally put down his tool and faced Kaelen fully. You've been using a sledgehammer to do a watchmaker's job, son. That core inside you is the most sophisticated piece of reality-shaping technology ever conceived, and you're using it to make shadow gerbils. He shook his head in mock despair. It's tragic. What do you want? Kaelen demanded, his patience thinning. I want to help you not die, Dorian said, his jovial tone vanishing, replaced by a grim seriousness. Because right now, you're a bright, shiny beacon for every hungry sovereign and association hound in 100 miles. And you're armed with a stick. I'm here to give you a sword. Chapter 62. Dorian gestured for them to follow him to the back of the workshop. He pressed a sequence on a seemingly blank wall, which slid open to reveal a descending staircase, illuminated by a soft, blue light. The air that wafted up was clean, charged with ozone and pure, refined manner. My real workshop, Dorian said, leading them down. The top is just for show. The room below was a marvel. It was a fusion of a Prevail machine shop and an arcane laboratory. Schematics for devices that defied physics glowed on floating holograms. On one bench lay what looked like the dismantled arm of a hunter's powered armor, but the wiring was organic, pulsing with light. On another, a phantom core was suspended in a field of energy, being slowly disassembled and analyzed. This is impossible, Lyra whispered, her sniper's eyes taking in every impossible detail. Impossible is just a word used by people who lack vision, Dorian said, walking over to a central pedestal. The system provides generic templates. A fireball here, a strength enhancement there. It's a one-size-fits-all solution for a war that requires custom-tailored weapons. He turned to Kaelen, his blue eyes intense. Your core, the Warden Protocol, it's not a set of spells. It's an operating system, and it's currently running on its factory default settings. I can give you an upgrade. New firmware. Better integration. Kaelen felt a mix of awe and deep suspicion. Why? What's in it for you? Survival, Dorian said simply. I'm a craftsman. I build things to be used. The current crop of sovereigns, they're all destroyers. They want to break the world and rule the pieces. A warden is a builder, a restorer. Your success means my work endures. It's that simple. He tapped the pedestal. So, what'll it be, Ashen Crow? Do you want to keep making shadow gerbils? Or do you want to learn how to forge a shadow that can blot out the sun? Chapter 63. The choice was no choice at all. The temptation was too great, but trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. "Show me," Kaelen said. "A demonstration. Nothing permanent." Dorian grinned. "A man after my own heart. Cautious." He walked over to a large, crystal lens mounted on an arm. "Let's have a look at what we are working with. This is a mana resonance imager. It sees what the system sees, but without the filters." He gestured for Kaelen to stand before it. As the lens powered up, a complex, three-dimensional image of Kaelen's body appeared in the air above the pedestal. His veins were rivers of silver light, all flowing towards the brilliant, knot-like sphere of the paradox core in his chest. But around the core, the image was fuzzy, glitchy. Lines of code, the Warden protocol, scrolled past, but they were fragmented, with gaps and redundant loops. "See there?" Dorian pointed. "Inefficient energy routing. The Veil Shroud is a constant, low-level drain. Your assimilation protocol is brute force, no finesse. And your Risen command. It's like you're manually puppeteering each one. No wonder you get headaches." He typed a command into a console. A new strand of code, elegant and compact, appeared next to the glitchy original for the Risen command. "This is a simple optimization," Dorian explained. "A swarm control subroutine. It lets you issue a general directive to a group, and they'll carry it out autonomously within set parameters. Frees up your processing power for more important things." He looked at Kaelen. "Shall I install it? It's a minor patch. You can reject it at any time." Kaelen glanced at Lyra, who gave a slight, uncertain shrug. He looked back at the glitching code of his own power. It was a mess. "Do it," he said. Chapter 64. Dorian transferred the data packet. It was a strange sensation, not the violent rewriting of the initial bonding or the painful assimilation of corruption. It was like a key turning in a lock he never knew existed. A new set of options appeared in his Warden interface. Firmware update. Risen command module v.1.1 installed. New feature. Swarm intelligence. Air description. Allows for the setting of complex behavioral parameters for Risen groups. Enables autonomous tactical execution. He focused on his stored Risen skitterlings. Instead of individually commanding them, he defined a parameter, *patrol perimeter. Engage hostiles with hidden run tactics. Prioritize survival. He released them. The 6 shadowy insects flowed out of their cores and immediately dispersed, moving not as a single mindless horde, but as a coordinated squad, covering each other, using the environment for cover. They were smarter, more efficient. The mental strain was gone. He could now think clearly while they operated. "It's cleaner," Kaelen admitted, a sense of awe cutting through his caution. "That's just the start," Dorian said, his eyes gleaming. "I can refine your assimilation to be more selective, so you're not poisoning yourself every time you consume corruption. I can harden your Veil Shroud to be truly undetectable. I can even help you access the deeper functions of the core, the ones the dying Warden didn't have time to explain." "Like what?" Lyra asked, her professional curiosity piqued. Dorian's smile was cryptic. "Like the ability to not just command the dead, but to reshape the battlefield itself, to create your own eclipses." The statement hung in the air, terrifying and magnificent. "You can make dungeons." Kaelen breathed. "I can teach you to build fortresses," Dorian corrected. "Pockets of stable reality where your power is absolute. Sanctuaries from the anomaly. But that's advanced work. First, we need to get you a proper weapon. That means a focus." Chapter 65. A focus. Kaelen asked. "The system doesn't use foci." "The system is an idiot," Dorian stated bluntly. "It thinks power should come from within. And for most, it does. But for a Warden, your power is the power of the boundary itself. It needs an anchor, a lens to concentrate it. Right now, you're spraying it everywhere." He led them to a heavily warded vault at the back of the lab. Inside, on velvet pads, were a dozen objects. A dagger that seemed to be made of solidified twilight. A gauntlet that hummed with gravitational force. A simple-looking ring that made the air around it cold. "These are my creations," Dorian said with pride. "Artifacts that interface directly with a user's unique mana signature, amplifying and refining their ability. For you, we need something special." He passed over the obvious weapons and went to a small, unadorned box. He opened it. Inside, resting on black silk, was a simple, grey metal bracer. It was etched with faint, almost invisible patterns that mirrored the circuits on Dorian's arms. "This is a blank slate," Dorian said, lifting it out with reverence. "A conduit. It's inert. It has no power of its own. Its function is to bond with a Warden's Core and become an external manifestation of your will. It will grow and change as you do." He held it out to Kaelen. "Put it on." Hesitantly, Kaelen took the bracer. It was cool to the touch. As he clasped it around his left forearm, it adjusted itself, fitting perfectly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the paradox core in his chest flared. A torrent of silver and black energy shot down his arm and into the bracer. The grey metal darkened to the color of ash. The faint etchings ignited with brilliant silver light, forming intricate, crowing-like patterns that swirled and shifted across the surface. A jolt, like a second awakening, ran through him. Warden focus bonded. Paradox core synchronization, 15%. New interface available, focus integrated command. The bracer was no longer a piece of metal. It was a part of him. Chapter 66. "Good," Dorian murmured, watching the display with a critical eye. "Cinch is stable. Now, channel your power through it. Don't summon a risen. Just manifest your authority." Kaelen focused. He willed the power of the core to flow into the bracer. The crowing patterns glowed brighter. Instead of shadows erupting from his hand, the air in front of the bracer shimmered. A shape began to form, condensing from nothingness. It was a sword. It was not a physical blade of steel. It was a weapon forged from solidified void and sharpened light. The blade was a shard of absolute blackness that seemed to drink the light from the room, while the edge gleamed with a silver radiance so sharp it hurt to look at. The hilt was the same ashen metal as the bracer, seamlessly connected. He held the sword of nothing and starlight. Weapon manifested, unnamed, Warden's blade. Properties: ignores conventional durability. Severs mana connections. Effective against anomalous entities. By all that's broken. Lyra whispered, lowering her rifle completely. "Every Warden needs a blade," Dorian said, a satisfied smile on his face. "That one is yours. It's not a summon. It's a permanent manifestation of your will to impose order. It can cut through anything that is, or ever was, a lie, including most phantom armor and sovereign defenses." Kaelen swung the blade. It made no sound as it cut through the air, but he could feel its potential. It was weightless, yet it felt more real than anything he had ever held. He willed it away. The sword dissolved back into motes of light and shadow, which were absorbed back into the bracer. He looked at Dorian, the last vestiges of his suspicion crumbling in the face of this incredible gift. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Dorian said, his expression turning grim again. "The easy part is over. I've given you a tool. Now you have to survive long enough to learn how to use it. And your final exam is coming." He walked over to a large holographic map of the city. A location was pulsing with a slow, malevolent red light. It was a place Kaelen knew all too well. "The Sovereign of Reflection didn't appreciate you escaping his maze," Dorian said. "He's getting impatient. And he's decided to expand his domain. He's going to try and merge the mirror maze forest with the real world, starting with the downtown commercial sector." Dorian tapped the map. "He's making his move. And you're the only one who can stop him." Chapter 67. The drive back to the warehouse was conducted in stunned silence. Kaelen flexed his left hand, the ashen bracer hidden under his sleeve. He could still feel the phantom weight of the Warden's blade, a new and potent limb he hadn't known he was missing. Silas listened to their report with a face of granite. When they finished, he let out a long, slow breath. A smith. A focus. A sword made of nothing. He pinched the bridge of his nose. And now a sovereign is trying to turn downtown into a funhouse mirror. This is escalating far beyond what I signed up for. "We are in it now, Captain," Jack said, though his usual bravado was tempered by fear. "We can't just let that happen." "We won't," Silas said, his voice firming with resolve. "But we are not doing it alone. This is a city-wide threat. We have to warn the Association." A cold dread settled in Kaelen's stomach. The Association? They'll detain me the moment I show my face. Not you, Silas said, a cunning glint in his eye. Us. Obsidian Star. We report a massive, unstable spatial fluctuation emanating from the mirror maze dungeon. We say our sensory specialist detected it during a routine perimeter check. We don't mention sovereigns. We don't mention you. We report a potential dungeon break. It's our civic duty. It also forces the association's hand. They have to send a response team, which means they'll be there to draw the sovereign's fire. It was a brilliant, cynical plan. Use the association as a distraction and a blunt instrument while they dealt with the real threat. Lyra, Jax, I want you to gather every piece of data we have on the mirror maze. Make it look good. Rorik, prep the heavy gear. We are not going in as scouts this time. He turned to Kaelen. And you, with this new sword and your upgraded army, what are our chances? Kaelen closed his eyes, feeling the hum of the core, the potential of the focus, the sharp clarity of his optimized risen command. Before today, we would have been annihilated, Kaelen said, opening his eyes. The silver light in them was unmistakable now. Now we have a chance. Chapter 68. The association's response was swift and massive. The report of a potential B-rank dungeon break in the heart of the city triggered a full-scale emergency protocol. The commercial sector was evacuated. Barricades were erected. And a full strike team, led by none other than Director Valeriana herself, was deployed to the containment zone around the mirror maze gate. From their hidden vantage point a block away, the Obsidian Star team watched the show. Look at them, Jax muttered, watching the squads of A and B rank hunters in pristine armor take up positions. They think they're ready for a dungeon break. They have no idea what's really in there. The gate to the mirror maze, usually a pool of liquid mercury, was now churning and bubbling like a cauldron. Jagged shards of reflected cityscape were starting to push through, distorting the air around them. The sound of breaking glass was a constant, rising crescendo. Valeriana stood at the command post, her face a mask of cool efficiency, but Kaelen could see the tension in her shoulders. She knew this wasn't normal. Then, it happened. The gate didn't just break, it unfolded. The liquid mercury surface solidified into a massive, perfect pane of glass, and then it shattered outwards. But the shards didn't fall. They hung in the air, multiplying, reflecting and refracting the city until the entrance to the dungeon was gone, replaced by a sprawling, impossible labyrinth of mirrored streets and buildings that was spilling into the real world. The mirror maze was no longer contained. Move in. Valeriana's voice echoed over the loudspeakers. Contain the expansion. Neutralize all hostiles. The association forces surged forward and immediately ran into trouble. The moment they entered the reflected zone, their formations broke. Hunters were attacking their own reflections, disoriented by the shifting pathways and psychic whispers. Mirage weavers flitted through the chaos, amplifying confusion and turning allies against each other. It was a slaughterhouse. Right on schedule, Silas said grimly. The Sovereign is using them as toys. Our opening is now. Kaelen, you know the plan. The plan was simple. While the association forces served as the anvil, Obsidian Star would be the hammer. Kaelen would use his Warden sensors to navigate the true heart of the expanding maze and confront the Sovereign directly. It was time for the Ashen Crow to fly. Chapter 69. Stepping into the reflected city was like diving into a frozen lake. The psychic pressure was immense, a constant assault on the senses. The whispers were no longer faint. They were a roaring crowd in his head. But Kaelen was different now. The focus on his arm glowed softly, acting as a stabilizer. The optimized Warden protocol filtered the cognitive hazard, allowing him to see the true structure beneath the illusions. Follow me, he said, his voice cutting through the mental static for his team. He led them on a path that shouldn't have existed, walking through solid-looking walls that were mere reflections, ignoring wide-open avenues that were deadly traps. His risen moved with them, a silent, coordinated phalanx of shadows that cut down any mirage weavers that dared to approach. They were a knife sliding through the chaos, untouched. They pushed deeper, past the struggling association hunters, towards the epicenter of the expansion. The reflections around them began to change. They no longer showed their own images, or the city. They showed the chrome-masked face of the Sovereign, watching them from 1,000 angles. Asterisk, you return, asterisk, a voice spoke directly into their minds, smooth and cold as polished metal. Asterisk the curious little bird with the stolen light. You bring more toys to my gallery. Asterisk. The air in front of them shimmered, and the sovereign of reflection materialized. He was just as he appeared in the mirrors, tall, slender, dressed in elegant, archaic clothes, his face a blank, featureless chrome mask. You will contain this breach, Kaelen said, his warden's blade materializing in his hand with a thought. The void-black blade seemed to suck the false light from the mirrored world around them. The sovereign tilted his head. Asterisk or what? You will break a few more mirrors? This world is already a lie, little warden. I am merely revealing the truth, a truth of infinite, lonely reflections. I will make this city my masterpiece. Asterisk. He raised a hand. The mirrored buildings around them shifted, and from the glass, copies of the Obsidian Star team stepped out. Mirror Silas, Mirror Lyra, Mirror Jax, and Mirror Rorick. They were perfect duplicates, down to the smallest detail, but their eyes were empty chrome. Don't let them touch you. Kaelen warned. They'll try to replace you. The real battle for the city had begun. Chapter 70. The fight was a nightmare. Their doppelgangers were perfect copies, with all their skills and knowledge. Mirror Lyra's shots were just as accurate. Mirror Rorick's shield was just as strong. Mirror Jax was just as agile. The Obsidian Star team was fighting themselves. Kaelen knew he couldn't get drawn into that battle. His target was the Sovereign. He charged, his warden's blade held high. The Sovereign didn't move. He simply gestured, and a wall of mirrored shards erupted from the ground between them. Kaelen swung his blade. It passed through the glass without resistance, and the wall shattered. But as it did, each shard reflected a different, twisted image of Kaelen, a version consumed by the blight, a version serving the association, a version who had never been sick. Asterisk which reflection is the true one? Asterisk the Sovereign's voice taunted. Asterisk are you the healer? Or the consumer? The savior? Or the next destroyer? Asterisk. The psychic assault was more potent than any physical attack. Kaelen faltered, the doubts and fears he kept buried rising to the surface. He saw Silas, locked in a brutal axe duel with his mirror self. He saw Lyra, desperately trying to outsnipe an opponent who knew her every move. Jax was on the ground, his mirror self's blade at his throat. Rorick was being slowly pushed back. They were losing. He was failing. He looked at the focus on his arm, the crowing patterns pulsing with his own frantic heartbeat. Asterisk a lens to concentrate your power. Asterisk. He wasn't just a warden. He was the Ashen Crow. He stopped fighting the doubts. He accepted them. He was all those things, healer and consumer, savior and destroyer. He was the paradox. He focused all his will, all his authority, into the focus. He wasn't trying to cut or to command. He was trying to asterisk impose star. The ashen bracer flared with blinding silver light. Domain, assert reality. The command was not spoken aloud. It was a declaration of his will that rippled out from the focus. The effect was instantaneous. The shifting, mirrored world around them stuttered. The false images flickered. The psychic whispers silenced. For a radius of 50 feet around Kaelen, the Sovereign's domain was overwritten by his own. The ground became solid, grey stone. The air stilled. The reflections showed only what was truly there. His teammates, freed from the disorienting illusions, gained the upper hand in an instant. The Sovereign of Reflection took a step back, his chrome mask for the first time showing a crack of surprise. Asterisk impossible. Asterisk his voice hissed in their minds, laced with something new, fear. Kaelen leveled his warden's blade at him, his eyes burning with silver fire. Your turn to be reflected, he said, and found wanting.